Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Criminals are the original entrepreneurs. They are always looking of a new way to make a lot of money. And as our world becomes more and more digital, criminals are digitizing too. They are finding ways to access business banking accounts and help themselves to your money. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so you're probably hearing about this from various places right now. Joining me to discuss is Andrea Shaw, partner at the law firm Practus, who has extensive experience on the regulatory and legal side of cybersecurity enforcement. Andrea, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Andrea, let's start with an overview of cybercrimes impacting businesses and what to do if you find yourself in this unfavorable position.
Yeah, it is really a scary place out there online these days. And we're not going to talk about every potential cybercrime today because we'd have to be here all week. So I thought we'd focus on four that are pretty common and have significant impact, especially in the small business world. You've probably heard most of these before. The first one is phishing. That's with a PH, not with an F. It's not down out on the lake. That's when the bad guys are sending you emails or sending you links or text messages, trying to learn more about you to get information they can then use to further some other sort of scheme. Another common cybercrime we're seeing is malware ending up installed on small businesses, laptops and phones and equipment. And the malware gives the bad guys a gateway into the business computer system where then they can do all kinds of really fun stuff for them, really bad and time-consuming things for the business. Sometimes once they get the malware, they'll add ransomware to the hardware. And ransomware is a real problem because what they'll do is they'll encrypt all of the data on the computer system and, just like the name says, hold it for ransom. They'll ask for Bitcoin or untraceable currency, usually some sort of digital currency, in order to restore your data. Sometimes they really do it, sometimes they don't. And what's really interesting about the ransomware aspects right now is that the governing regulatory body in this space has come out and said that it may not be legal to pay ransomware, depending on where that's coming from. So there are all sorts of complications if that happens. And last, but certainly not least, businesses should be thinking about what's called corporate account takeover. That's when the bad guys somehow get your online banking credentials and they take over your online banking account. And once they're in there and can do that, the sky's the limit. They can take all the money out of your account and it can be a significant financial loss for the businesses.
Andrea, are these types of cybercrimes mutually exclusive?
They aren't. And a lot of times they end up layered. For example, you'll start with a phishing attack. You get enough information so then you can somehow get malware on the computer. The malware opens the door then for the ransomware. Usually there's phishing attacks that lead to the corporate account takeover. So they sort of all work together. Cyber criminals are really good at teamwork, ironically. And I always think if they just use their power for good, they could really actually make a lot of money instead of stealing it.
That's a really good point, actually. So the question is, how do you prevent cybercrime?
So the best thing you can do, especially as a small business owner, is have strong password controls. This is more than just make sure you have a password. Don't use your dog's name. That's so common. I've seen a t-shirt that says, "Oh shoot, I was hacked. I have to rename my dog." Have a password that's not a real word. Have it be long. The longer the password, the harder it is to crack. And there have been studies that show the length of password is almost one of the best things that you can do. The other thing that's important, of course, is to have updated virus protection and firewalls. And if you don't have that expertise, this is one area where it's really worth spending a little money and getting that expertise to protect your business. Not quite as easy as hiring an expert to help you with your virus protection is employee training. They need to be aware and understand what these risks are to help you mitigate it. And last, another important thing to think about is sort of beforehand, talk to your insurance provider about cyber insurance, because I actually had a client that was a small business, have a data breach, and it wasn't massive, but he had coverage, and that helped him pay his legal fees, which I particularly am fond of, and it also helped him recover some of his losses.
So what should companies and individuals do if they become a victim?
First and foremost, If it's involving any of the financial aspects, tell your bank right away. They can often do things to help block and prevent further losses. Change your passwords. Change them to a strong password. You also want to file a police report. Oftentimes, these criminals are untraceable, but you never know what sort of high-level investigations are going on where your additional information will be the key to unlocking a larger scheme. And last, when this happens, make sure you update your virus protection.
Andrea, this is incredibly valuable advice. Thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.